Hey everybody, thank you for joining us today with our coffee chat with Mihir Maniar. Couple things we want to talk about and just some house cleaning rules here. If you have any questions, please enter them into the question window or raise your hand and we will unmute you and then you can ask directly. Do remember that this is a public format, so no NDA content please. And if you have any other additional comments or questions, just feel free to give us a shout and we'll get to you as soon as we can. With that in mind, Mihir, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you do?
Sure. My favorite people, Sunny and Pat. Good morning, folks, for people in the West Coast, and good evening for the folks on the other side of the West Coast. It's a pleasure to be on this Converge chat session. I've heard it's been going pretty well so far, with lots of interactive sessions and lots of questions and lots of interest in what we are doing here from a developer standpoint. So I'm pretty excited. I'm sure Sunny, you and Pat are excited, and so maybe our attendees. So just a brief picture in terms of where do I fit in and what's my role. So Citrix has got two main big businesses. The first one is what we call Workspace. Yeah, so the second big business we have in Citrix is what we called networking previously. But as you know, Citrix doesn't make routers and switches and Wi-Fi and NAC devices and stuff like that. So we renamed it for the right reasons. And now we are calling the second key part of the business application delivery and security, because it ties very well with Workspace. Ultimately, Workspace is all about using applications. And the portfolio that I manage, formerly called networking, now it's called application delivery and security, is to deliver the application securely to Workspace. And it consists of two big components. One is the SD-WAN component or portfolio, which is used to have users connect to the applications, whatever the applications be, in a secure fashion. And the second key portfolio is ADC, which has got multiple portfolios, but ADC is used to deliver the applications from a hybrid multi-cloud data center, again, and keeping the applications secure.
So we've actually seen a lot of interest over the past, I guess what we're into day 7 now, around SD-WAN and also the Nitro APIs. What can you tell us about Nitro? Because so my get out of jail card is that I've been at Citrix for 4 months, and 3 of those I've been organizing this event. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Nitro and in particular, how those APIs kind of relate to the motion to services and the cloud.
The whole world is going towards APIs, right? Everything is going towards how can we build a platform and how can we make the platform like a black box and expose certain functionalities through APIs. And so if you look at any platforms that are there today, whether it's Facebook or in the consumer side, or whether it's the entire Apple suite of devices that expose their APIs through iOS, it's all essentially meant to black box the entire set of functionality and northbound expose APIs, so we can have our developers and system integrators and partners build on top of that. So in that sense, the ADC portfolio has got, and the SD-WAN portfolio, which comprises the application delivery and security suite, we expose APIs northbound to hide the functionality of SD-WAN and ADC and provide all those functions to our developers and ecosystem partners so they can build on top of that. And on the ADC side, the name we've given to the API set is called Nitro. We don't have a similar name on the SD-WAN side, but you can essentially say it's pretty much the same name. So essentially we have northbound APIs to black box the entire system, and the northbound APIs are what we encourage our customers is not to go to individual devices, but go to the orchestration platforms that actually provide a whole system view. So on the SD-WAN side, we have something called SD-WAN Orchestrator, which is a SaaS platform where we have northbound APIs. And then on the ADC side, which is the application delivery controller, we have EDM, which is Application Delivery Manager, which manages the entire delivery of applications on ADC. The northbound APIs from there are called Nitro. So essentially, those APIs form this whole system for what was formerly called, again, networking, now called Application Delivery and Security, to do a lot of functions. I will categorize it into like two main categories where the Nitro APIs are used for, right? The first one is really around if you want to have developers, develop practices or help their customers or their employees, wherever they fit in, to automate tasks. So the first one is all around automation. Automation is a big word, right? It consists of many things. But from our mind, it really consists of day zero configuration. So if you want to configure an entire system of application delivery and security, then configuration is a key part of that API suite. Now, configuration also includes migration because everyone's going to the cloud. So if you want to simplify that migration motion to the cloud, then there are ecosystem partners and developers can use those APIs to migrate to the cloud easily and configure, right? Again, it's part of configuration. The second set of APIs is really around monitoring. So once everything is configured, you want to monitor how the whole system is performing. And the third set of APIs are really around, and these are not like sets, but I'm just giving a notion of how those APIs can be used. The third area of usage for automation really is around troubleshooting. Right. So if something goes wrong, you can go and take an action, right? So that's how we have automation, but we also have the APIs on the Nitro side that can be used to extend the system. And extension is a very key part of APIs, that you have a certain black box, you provide APIs, and then you leave it to developers to figure out what they can go and build on top of that and what cool applications can come out that we haven't thought of, right? So automation is a simple task that everyone needs to do and remove all the manual labor, and we provide the functionality. But I'm super interested in knowing what can be done with the API suite, which black boxes everything, to extend the functionality that we provide today to our customers.
Right. So before I ask my next question, actually, I know some people have come in late. So the way this works is if you have a question, then please raise your hand in GoToWebinar or ask it in the question panel, and we either Sunny or I will ask it on your behalf. Or if you raise your hand, we can open your mic and you can ask Mihir directly about anything to do with networking. So it's really interesting, actually, that you break up the...
we call it app delivery and security. We changed the name.
App delivery and security. Oh my goodness! It
changed. I'm going to collect coins now for every time I hear the word networking.
It changed before I even joined the company, and even I call it the wrong thing. So that's how ingrained it was. So it's really interesting that you divide them up in that way, because when I hear that, when I'm working with our community of developers of every different kind, and what I'm hearing is that those first set of APIs, kind of the day zero, the automation, monitoring, and so on, they really correspond to that administration role. The functions that people used to do by hand in a UI, that we're now automating, we're turning them into infrastructure as code. And, you might expect engineers, admins at the customer, IT department, network admins, or SIs to be really concerned with that side of things. But then we have this other set of APIs that you got onto, where we could be seeing ISVs, so people creating products on top of this API set, and that's what really interests me, because there's a saying, I think Bill Gates said something like, you only really have a platform if your ecosystem's making more money than you are. And the work of setting things up and configuring things and maintaining them and monitoring them, that's one side of the house. But this idea of building completely new products and IP on top of the networking, APIs I find really exciting. Have you what activity have you seen so far on that side? Is there anything you can share? And remember, we're not under NDA, so bear that in mind.
Yeah, it's a journey, Pat. It's a journey. So I think it's when I say it's a journey on the networking, on the application, well, I'll say networking side because this is relevant for all networking companies today. Most of the platform exposure that these companies have provided, whether it's Cisco, where I came from, they have a big developer community called DevNet, which I was a key part of, and I formed initially in its incubation time. We actually did have APIs, and we have it today in Citrix as well, to do both realms. One is as you mentioned, the IT tasks to make life easier for the IT admins, and the second one is to go and form a whole app store. Let's call it an app store, right? The goal is to go and form a platform with an app store so that you can have a network effect. You can have lots of people who adopt those applications. Well, a lot of developers build on top of the platform, which and if those applications are cool, you have a lot of consumers of those applications, and if you have a lot of consumers, you get more developers. So essentially, it's a whole spiral effect that we are trying to create over here with Sunny, you and Pat, and all of us over here. So the second part is a very key part. But usually, what happens is that in networking, I've seen that people start with the first part. That's the easy part to extend the platform, make it more of the manual tasks. Whether you're migrating to cloud and have a cloud practice, whether you want to automate configuration for all your customers. Let's say you have 1,000, 5,000 brand sites or coffee shops or retail stores, and you want to go and automate the entire deployment for 1,000, 5,000 stores. You're not going to manually configure every SD-WAN device and go ship it over there. There are modern tools for doing that, and that's a key example of how can you actually do the first function where everyone gravitates towards, because that simplifies complexity, simplifies life of the IT admins to use those APIs. The second part comes a little bit later when those APIs get a little bit more used and mature, I would say, so that we can actually then start enticing developers or do it in parallel, where those developers start thinking of newer ways than just the automation tasks for day 0, day 1, day 2. And the second part is pretty exciting. Just to give you an idea, for instance, right? Like iPhone has got millions of apps, same with Android, and they have very simple, I won't call it simple, but they have like simple things like, let's say, a gyroscope, like measures the movement 360 degrees of how the things move around when you move the phone. And that API is exposed, and then you have these, tons of people who developed on top of that. What cool things can you do when you move the phone? Can it be a joystick? Can it be used to measure compass movements and build apps on top of that, right? So we can't even imagine what the developers can do, which is where this conference is so useful, where we provide this functionality of the black box with the APIs. And I'm very interested in knowing what can come out of that in building simple software packages, or it could be ISV-based software packages that can go in our app store for usage by our customers or users, right, of the entire system. So in short, the second one I'm very excited about. It'll be interesting what can come out of this conference in terms of areas of what we can do. We've already seen this conference that has resulted in micro apps on the workspace side and all the cool things that can be done when you give exposure to micro apps and what can be built on top of that. So I think I'm excited now on this application delivery and security side, what can be done.
Right. So a question from Ariane. How does Nitro work? And I guess what Ariane is after is, is this, you've got this device, and you can presumably go into a configuration interface and work with it that way. Is Nitro basically just giving you a way to do all of that programmatically? Does it expose every function of ADC?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think the APIs exposed today are what can be configured with config style books or config jobs and things of that sort in in the ADC system, and similarly on the SD-WAN system, right? So it's essentially what can you do with the GUI, and the GUI uses APIs in return. So we expose that API to northbound to developers, right? And those are more automation, configuration, monitoring kind of based APIs. We do in the future without talking about roadmaps. We do in the future want to expose more raw kind of like APIs. Like in the ADC, we have so many different types of policies that can be done. Like if this particular packet comes in with this particular header, then you can go and take this particular action. There's so many things which can be like evolved to. In the second category we talked about, which is to extend the platform, not just automate it. That is where I'm actually trying to figure out what can we do in the future to expose the APIs. So today it's more config based. Tomorrow I want to make it more raw API based. Like how you mentioned gyroscope. Like a gyroscope has got raw APIs. Like movements happen, right? That's the API, and then you can go detect those movements and go and take a certain action, right? So that's the kind of APIs you want to give to developers, because who knows what they can go and use when you go and tell them, hey, the policy of the ADC, go do what you want. Here's, if this happens, you decide what action do you want to go and take.
Right.
So as we open things up more to the developer community and we build upon this economy we're trying to grow here, how do you see them shaping the way our technology works and the roadmap for the future of Citrix?
That's a good question. So I think let's up-level the entire system, right? Because I always look at a platform as a system, which consists of many elements. And in my case, for application delivery and security, the elements really are users want to connect to applications with SD-WAN in a secure fashion, and we want to deliver the applications securely and protect the applications, right? So that's like the system. The system is there to basically have a user connect securely and deliver the application and make sure the application is secure, right? That's the big picture system that we are developing in application delivery and security suite. So in terms of the vision, what is the vision, right? Go forward vision for us. It's all about creating a self-driving system, right? Policy-based self-driving system. Everything is going towards a self-driving model these days, right? So if it's, planes started a long time back, now we have cars, being talked about in the consumer world. But there's lots of systems which are closed loop systems, right? Closed loop systems have been around for like 50 years. So networking is one of those dinosaurs which hasn't gone towards that. And when I say networking, I'll talk about infrastructure. Infrastructure is more, has been a system which hasn't gone towards modernization of self-driving. And now you see people talking about it, and some folks delivering it, and we want to be the first in the application delivery and security suite, where we want to deliver a policy-based, intent-driven, self-driving system, right? So essentially, what does it mean? It means that we have developers or customers express policy, right? Policy is like intent-driven, so it's not like, hey, if this bit happens, go change the byte to this, right? It's very business intent-driven policy. Like, for instance, if you have servers which are not functioning, remove them from the server farm. Or if you get errors like 5xx errors in the application, then go and take this particular action. It's like very intent-driven policies. Once you express the intent, then the system should be an autonomous system, right? That it should monitor the entire different instances and devices and whatever is happening in the net in the infrastructure to deliver the application and connect to the application. And then, use the telemetry coming out to kind of go and see whether you're conforming to that policy or not, right? And if you're conforming to the policy, then everything is fine, it's autonomous. But if you're not conforming to the policy, you deviate, then the policy action comes in, that a certain thing happens, a certain application gets hacked, or a certain user goes to an anomalous site, or, certain errors happen on the application, or certain servers fail. Like whatever the trigger happens to the system, the policy kicks in to decide what action to go and take. So it's beautiful. Like that's where we want to go take this future. We want to be the first in the industry. We already delivered quite a few things in that particular realm, and that's what I'm very excited about. So then the question becomes, the whole thing is a black box, and we're exposing everything through APIs with policy. And essentially, you can do whatever you want with policy. If certain things happen, you don't even need to be confined. The developers don't need to be confined to developing an application on top of that system, just to our system. You can look at all the systems the developers want to go and connect to. Like if this system behaves like this, you go and take actions across all the other systems that you want to go and change.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of this, right? If you abstract it to this level, then the developer can connect not just this system, but they can connect to an iPhone, to like an Android, to like any other systems that exist, which are black boxes.
I think it's a tremendously exciting opportunity, because I think when you separate things out in that way, like you say, there's a closed loop, but there's a space in that loop for developers to bring their domain-specific knowledge of, perhaps it's, detecting, maybe it's a machine learning system that detects attacks, that you put that in the loop, you're reading the monitoring data, you're making decisions in real time, looking at the traffic, and you detect an anomaly, and you feed that back into the policies to say, whatever, lock that IP address out, or whatever it is, would take whatever remedial action. And as you say, you have an autonomous system that can react. I mean, you still need human oversight, but that system can react much more quickly than having a human being paged and like investigating and taking.
Today it's all manual. Today the human is a router. The human is a router between something failing and then getting a text and then calling people and then deciding what to do and triaging the troubleshooting the issue. It's all human based routing function, right? And that's what we want to remove. Like we want to create an autonomous system. So it's pretty bold, and we want to be the first, and we've done quite a few things. They're all ML, machine learning based algorithms we develop to kind of detect all these things, prevent, detect, and then remediate. That's the goal.
Right.
So like prevent it from happening, detect it if it happens, and if it happens, then what do you want to do? Automate the whole thing based on policy.
Do you see the potential for more elasticity in networking? The way that you can quickly spin up compute resources and bring them online, and then spin them back down. I mean, are we getting towards that same capability in networking, where you can bring more resource online at busy periods or in response to failure, and then maybe ramp it back down afterwards?
Absolutely, that's a great idea, Pat. That's what we've been thinking about as well. That you have users connecting. Let's say you have an application it's a application that addresses billions of people, right? And you have these users coming from any location in the world. Depending on and as you know, there is a law of light that you connect a user to the application takes a certain amount of time. So experience matters when the user and the application are far away, right? So with modern technologies, like whether it's CDNs and globally distributed points of presence, you can put the application closer to the user. So if you can detect that if it's a certain festival season happening, let's say in certain geographies, like right now we have a big festival called Diwali coming up in India, so you're going to get hotspots from there. Or if it's Christmas, you're going to get hotspots from this part of the continent, right? Or if it's a certain festival for Jews, it's going to be in this particular narrow window. If you know where the distribution of user population is, then you can create this closed loop system to automate the instantiation of application instances closer to the users where they are, so that you can have a better experience. And everything can be automated, right? Migrating that application, creating the instance of the application to make sure it's closer to the users, putting all the different load balancing algorithms, auto scale algorithms, connecting if there's a pipe available, connect the user to the POP in a fashion which is much more higher performance. And then security, right? Make sure that all the security policies come into place as well, so that you may not get bot attacks or like application attacks to go and break the application, right? Go and instantiate all those policies as well. So that's like the beauty, right? I visualize this as a moving system which can just instantiate and completely be autonomous.
So the admin's task becomes much more proactive than reactive.
Exactly, it becomes proactive. They can focus on more they can focus more on the extension. See, I think as we discussed, automation and extension are two parts what can be achieved by a system or a platform. And everyone's focused on automation because that's where the world is, right? You're trying to automate things and the infrastructure so that way the IT admin's life becomes easier. It's complex, expensive to get people, whatnot. So that's the first task people are focused on. But I want to actually shift developers to thinking of what can be done in the extension part for that platform. Right? That's where the beauty is, that in this new world, what can you do?
Mm-hmm.
What can be achieved, right? With what we are doing over here.
So we with that, I think we're about time to close. Mihir, I want to thank you for your time here and being able to join us and share all your insights and show the developers all the new things that we have to look forward to coming through with Citrix.
Sure. And I think one thing I forgot to mention, I just want to have a closing remark, that when you actually develop all the cool applications, the developers develop the cool applications on top of our platform, we have something called API Gateway, which is connected with the CI/CD, pipelines. So as soon as they develop the application and they want to roll it out, they can use our API gateways, which I'm sure there are sessions on, to go and do things like authentication for end customers who want to use their application. The API gateway is that front door. Think of it as a front door to protect the applications that these developers are developing, right? So they can use our API gateway and connect them with their CI/CD frameworks. So that's another cool thing that I'm excited about.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that strikes me is going back to the Bill Gates platform thing. There is money to be made in taking the services, these Lego pieces we're creating and putting them together in innovative ways. And I think that's the real attraction here for our developers. Whether they're partners or customers or whatever. So with that, As Sunny says, thank you so much, Mihir. We'll be making the recording of this available for posterity. And thanks a lot. And to everybody else, thank you for participating. And we'll see you in the next coffee break.
Thanks, Sunny Pat, and to all our developers and audience who are making this, help us make this a success. Cheers.
All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks.